Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GI Jobs Virtual Job Fair. We're really excited to have you guys here today and hope that you get to connect with your next employer. We've got a ton of great employers exhibiting today in the booth. Make sure that you stop in, connect with the recruiter, and upload your resume too. Make sure that when you go into your profile, that resume is listed in there. Our employers do go through and search through those. So if you don't get a chance to connect with a recruiter, it's an awesome opportunity to do that if your resume is in there. So very excited to welcome our guest speaker and our keynote for today, Brian Locke. Brian is our 2022 Veteran Champion of the Year in Higher Education and will be featured in our October issue of GI Jobs. So we're really excited to have Brian with us today and to pick his brain and ask him a ton of questions so that he can give you guys some extra keys to success so that you will have the tools that you need to be successful. Brian?
No, I'm so excited to be here. I tell everybody this, all my students, the one thing everybody has in common is eventually you're going to be looking for a job, right? And it's very important that you kind of prepare for that job. And particularly with our military and veteran experience, some of the things that, employers are looking for, it's very specific, right? And you can't always just rely on the fact that you were in the military, you were in the veteran. You really need to prepare for these things. You need to do your research and really get out there and put your best foot forward. You got so many skills as a military or a veteran service member that you can bring to any organization. The key is that you just need to be able to detail those skills and be able to explain exactly what you did. And that's kind of what they're looking for. Much more than just an education. You have skills that other people who are applying for jobs just don't have, and you need to be able to explain those kind of things to those employers. Very important.
Brian, I couldn't have said it better myself. You are absolutely right. The skills translation, having that conversation is so important. Being able to kind of tell your story, right, in a way that makes sense for you and for the employer. So with your background, you're a retired lieutenant colonel, right?
Absolutely. Spent 23 years on active duty and loved every minute of it. I miss it every day. So
what would you say is was your biggest challenge coming through transition?
Yeah, so it's different for everybody. So I think I had enough mentors who told me to start the process early. So I did look at starting the process really early before I decided to get out of the military. And my background is military police, so I always kind of thought I would go back into something that I did while I was in the military. And I think a lot of people do one or two things. They think they're going to go back to what they did in the military, or they're going to do completely opposite of what they did in the military. But for me, I thought I was going to do something along the same lines that I did in the military. Well, there's lots of other opportunities out there, and there's lots of other options out there. I never thought that I would be working at a university, helping other veterans. But I think when you find something that you have a passion about and that you love to do, it makes it much more like work. I tell everybody, even me now being out of the military, I somewhat feel like I'm still in the military because I'm connected to that same population. And many of our folks getting out of the military, you're going to be looking for that connection. I guarantee it. You're going to be looking for that same connection and teamwork and camaraderie and a sense of purpose that you had in the military. And I think if you look for employments that go that route, it's going to help you out immensely. But I would say start early. You're probably not going to get your dream job, right off the bat. It may take you a little while to get to exactly where you want to be. But don't turn down some of those opportunities. Some of those opportunities may be a stepping stone into something that you find is fabulous and you love and work for the rest of your career. But definitely start early.
That's great advice. In your journey, you were very active and you had that connectedness. You've led a lot of initiatives, within your organization and even prior to that. What words of advice do you have to our audience out there that kind of helped you through your journey in finding that connection and finding that purpose? Well, I guess first and foremost, how did you get there? It's hard to do, right? Like it's hard to find those groups.
Yeah, and sometimes, I think when folks retire out of the military, it may be a little bit different than a normal transition military because you typically been in an area and you got to know people, and then a transition, may come a little easier when it comes to that. I tell a lot of folks that, if you're restricting yourself to a certain geographic location, then it may be a little more difficult to get the exact position kind of that you're looking for. If you open yourself up to a broader aspect of, different states or different regions in the United States, I think that opens up your opportunities much more. And now there's so many opportunities to really get connected with other people, whether it's through social media, whether it's through LinkedIn, and look for those people that have the job that you want. Look for those job openings that are very similar to what you want to do. That's what I would do. I would go on the internet and I would look at a job that I thought that I would be interested in. And I would say, hey, do I have the skills and qualifications for that job? And for some of them, the answer is yes. And then for some of them, the answer, you'd have to be true to yourself to say, no, I really don't have the skills and qualifications for that job. Maybe I need to look to do something else, or maybe kind of look into another area, or what skills do I have to kind of bring to the table for another job? Because, all of us in the military, we have that leadership skills, that background in working with a team. And I think if you use those to your absolute advantage, then it makes the job process a whole lot easier when you're out looking for a job, or when you're out searching, or you're researching what positions or opportunities are out there, or what employers that are hiring. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of employers out there who say they're military and veteran friendly, and they want to hire military and veterans. And I believe most of them do. But it has to be something more than that. You have to bring some other skill to the table other than the fact that I served my country. It's a great asset to have, but I think you got to be able to explain what that really is, the tangibles of what you did in the military, what you accomplished, not what your job title was. And I think many people think their job title in the military is going to translate exactly to what they want to do in a civilian world. And unfortunately, that's just not the case in many situations.
Absolutely. And I think the further you are up in the chain, right, the less attached you are to that job title. So it becomes a little bit more difficult to line those things up.
Absolutely.
How did you, just out of curiosity, how did you land yourself in education? So a lot of people, you come out, you're like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to work? And then sometimes there's an industry bias, right? Like, well, I don't want to work for Apple because there's, I'm not an IT person. When there's lots of other positions that companies has outside of the industries that, in a retail world, they're actually known for. So how did you end up in education? What was your journey?
Well, it honestly, it goes back to my time when I was in college. And, so when I was in college, I went through the ROTC program, and that's what, started me on my journey on active duty. So throughout my years on active duty, I always told myself, as I have the opportunity to ever work in ROTC back on a university campus, I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to jump on that opportunity and run with it. And luckily enough, late in my career, I was offered the opportunity to be a professor of military science here at Mississippi State University. It was definitely a different transition, coming straight off of active duty assignments, coming straight out of years of deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, to find myself now, working on a university that has a very different structure, and things are very different than what I was used to. But during that time, I came to really enjoy the aspect of helping students reach their goal of getting a degree. And so during that time, I was working on the university, still employed by the Army. I started doing other stuff within the university that had nothing to do with my professor of military science job, just because I like some of the things, and I really wanted to embed myself into the culture of higher education. And so after doing that for a couple of years, made the decision to retire, at that point thinking I'm going to go back and probably be a contractor somewhere, be a GS civilian doing a job. The opportunity presented itself that maybe I could stay in higher education. And as I started thinking about it and started pursuing it, I really liked the aspect of teaching when I was in ROTC. I really liked the aspect of helping students, like I said, on their academic journey. And so when the opportunity opened up for me to come here and run a veterans center to now help our veterans and military students who have served their country now get their degree. I mean, for me, it was just like, wow, man, this is like a win-win situation. Me just jumping in the opportunity to really, I feel like I'm continue serving, our military folks that I was able to serve with for so many years, just in a different capacity now.
That's a great story. Brian, so with your MSU and where you're at now, you guys have a very large support system for your students, which I'm sure include employment services.
Absolutely.
So, what kind of resources or words of advice can you offer to our audience while they're on their employment journey?
Yeah, there's so many things to really think about, when it comes to, here again, just searching for the right job, right? There's certain ways to really, and certain skills to really look for what jobs, because there's so many different job platforms out there. When it comes to interviewing, right, there's so many different interview skills that are out there. Resumes have changed so much over the years. And, if you don't keep up to date with, what your resume looks like, or, have people review your resume, it's so important. And I know a lot of people think that, well, I can just go in there and wing an interview. But it's better to be prepared for that interview and kind of know what you're getting yourself into. So here we have partnered with our Career Center on campus, and I actually have someone for the Career Center that comes over to our Veterans Center every Wednesday and spends 2 hours over here. And that way they can meet with students and help them with their resume, help them with interview skills, how to dress for an interview. I mean, obviously different companies and the way people look at how you interview or how you're dressed for an interview, things have changed, over the years. So we focus on that quite a bit. I think I mentioned earlier that we did an actual job fair here in person last week, and we were able to, identify our military and veterans, by a button that they wore. So employers know when they come up to them that, hey, they're military or they're a veteran, because that's a very important aspect. I think you need to let employers know, particularly when you're meeting them face to face. You hear people talk about your elevator speech, right? What would you say to somebody in the first, 3 minutes, that you meet them? And you think you can just speak that off the top of your head, but sometimes I think you need to rehearse those things and really think about it. So for our military folks, I think you just need to, hey, it's a mission, right? Your mission is to get a job and to get employed. And you wouldn't go into any other mission in Iraq or Afghanistan if you wasn't 100% prepared for that mission. And I think you need to do the exact same thing when it comes to your next career or what you're going to do potentially, for the rest of your life. You got to be prepared for it.
Absolutely. So, Brian, before we close out, I do want to say congratulations being nominated for the 2022 Military Champion, or I'm sorry, Veteran Champion of the Year in Higher Education. That is a very, very, very important title. It is a very, very important thing to really connected with your network. So congrats to you for that. That's huge.
I'm super excited about it. I'm very humbled, to be nominated and to be a part of this group. And I'm so humbled that you guys let me be a part of this. And, thanks for what you guys doing in terms of these virtual job fairs. I mean, they're so important. They're so important, to the veteran population, the military population. And, I hope they're all taking advantage of it as many as they possibly can, but it is a terrific, terrific resource that's going to help them out in the long run.
All right. So before we close out and let you guys get out there and network with the awesome employers that we have, Brian, in 3 words that you would give our audience to send super positive vibes their way and some motivation, what would they be?
Go kick ass.
Love it. Get out there, have fun, guys. Network, meet the recruiters, and don't forget to upload your resume. Have fun. Bye, guys.
Good luck.